Welcome to the Forge Truth Podcast, where we are building great men as God defines greatness. Forge is a movement of men with a mission to help all men realize they're the deeply beloved, redeemed sons of the Most High God. I'm your producer, Zach, and I'm here to discuss the issues that affect men the most with our two hosts, Dr. Pete Alwinson, lifelong pastor and leader of Forge, and Jayson Quiñones, Bishop of Core Faith Church in Oviedo, Florida. Men, welcome to the show.
Hey, here we go.
Yeah.
No arm wrestling today, Bishop. I'm sorry. Even though we have a guest that could arm wrestle you.
Yeah. I think he'd win, but there it is. So
There's only one way to find out.
I know, right? We ought to see. That would be a great way to start this thing.
Offline.
Next kickoff party, let's have an arm wrestling competition.
Okay. All right.
Forge party, arm wrestling.
That is a good idea when we kick off the new year.
We could do arm wrestling and the slap.
Whoa.
That slap. We'll really see real men come
Real
out.
men.
I would do that.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not doing that.
We do have a guest in the studio. Rees Nicholes is joining us. Pete, will you introduce our guest for us?
Yeah, good to have Rees Nicholes with us. And Rees has been, I've gotten to know you within the last year at Forge. It's been good to have you with us. And you have an interesting story. So you got to tell us a little bit about where you came from and what the Lord has been doing in your life. And Rees, tell us about how, and then we're going to move into talking about mentoring some more, because that's been kind of one of our major emphases this year.
Yeah.
And how important it is for men to mentor, because we share Forge as sort of a movement of men mentoring men of all ages.
Yeah.
And so how that's a big part of what you do now. But tell us your story, and full disclosure, some of you guys, as you listen to Rees now, might say, what? Because he's from Australia. So tell us a little bit about your story, man.
Yeah, well, sorry about that. If someone needs an interpreter, Pete can interpret, or Jayson, or clarify, like, what does that mean? I'll try and not use any Aussie colloquialisms, but I can say g'day. But yeah, a bit about my story in light of, mentoring. I've had some mentors. I've had some tormentors. But I grew up in the church, pastor's kid, and I definitely had some people instruct me in the way of the Lord, and the promise of that is that when you're older, you won't depart, and that was my story. But unfortunately, I walked away from the Lord, probably because of people who misrepresented God. And now that I know God, I just know that wasn't him. But the ideas that got into me were a little bit legalistic in some areas, and trying to earn something that is a gift, trying to earn my way. And I didn't know how to receive God's grace. And I kind of thought I was too far gone, but I was trying to do my righteousness through self-righteousness, which was unrighteous. Because like Pete shared this morning, there's only one man that paid the price, that became sin, so that we might become the righteousness of God. And that was a big truth that I missed. Although it was said, I probably wasn't posturing myself to hear that the way that it affected me to be able to receive it. And it's something I've thought about a lot, like, why did I walk away from the Lord? Why did I rebel? The prodigal son story, I kind of parallel that in some ways. And, I felt rejected by God and the church. And in that, I tried to prove I was enough through what I did. And I ran on the fear of not being enough, trying to fill the God-sized shaped hole in my soul. And I found what Jesus said to be true. What does a man gain when out to profit the whole world but forfeit his soul? And, everything that I tried to do to fill that hole, I still was empty. And I did it through like playing elite sport. I represented my state for rugby. I did it through what other people thought of me. So I thought if other people approved of me, then I would feel approved. So unfortunately, if we live for the praises of people, we'll die by their persecution. So the very people that could build me up could also tear me down. And deep down inside, I was insecure, running on the fear of not being enough, trying to prove what I was doing.
I think a lot of men deep down feel insecure, and we fake it a lot of our lives. All right, real quick. Is rugby tougher than football?
That's arguable. I mean, you guys hit hard. but then you're wearing headgear.
That's right. That's right.
So like, I mean, I think they both are tough in different ways, but some of the hits in football is full on.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But I think I would like to try football with pads and then have a comparison, but I've never tried it.
Oh man. When I think of rugby, I think those guys are crazy.
Those are real men.
Those are real men.
Yeah,
Those
real
are
men.
studs, man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But okay. So you played rugby, and that was in high school, college. What'd you do?
Yeah, that was in high school. But kind of once I made the state team, then I was like, I kind of just switched over to something else. But set another goal for trying to do stuff and pursued other things to try and fill that hole. One of them was the army, so I joined the army at 19. And
Australian Army at 19.
Army,
Wow.
Sort myself out. And I learned a lot of good things in there, and some not so good things. But I think, I really love my country, the opportunity to serve, and the brotherhood. I love that the army, we all wear our same uniform. So it takes away that social, differences that we have. And like, you really find who your true friends are when you go to war in the trenches with them. And you kind of have mates for life from that. My goal in the army when I was in there was like, I wanted to get into this recon sniper unit in infantry. And I, about 3 or 4 years in, I did selection. I got into that. And that was another thing. I thought once I do this, then I'll be like, again, still didn't feel like I was enough. And, still masking my insecurity. I say the bigger the ego, the lower the self-esteem.
That's a good line. That'll preach.
The bigger he did preach on Sunday, and he used that on Sunday.
Okay.
It did preach.
Okay.
Yeah.
The bigger the ego, the lower the self-esteem.
Yeah.
Wow. So where did you serve in the Australian Army?
I served in Iraq in 2006. I served alongside an American base, so we're in with you guys, and in Talil, and then I served in East Timor in 08 and 09, and then in 2010 I was in Afghanistan.
Wow.
On a forward operating base, there was about 100 of us, and there was about 40, 50 Aussies and about 40, 50 American soldiers as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your impression of what's the difference between like an American soldier and an Australian soldier?
I think quite similar in a lot of ways. I think because we're smaller, it's a bit different. Like, some of the guys it depends on the unit as well. Like I remember the Delta Force guys were really switched on and they're like serious, and the Marines are like, they've all got kind of different cultures. I met some guys in the army that were like, oh, I just did this because it was like, either go to jail or join the army. We don't have that. So it just kind of depended on the unit. Yeah.
I've heard that. I didn't know if that was ever true, really, though. I joined the army because I was going to jail if I didn't.
Yeah.
But I guess it's true, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless that guy was lying.
That's right. That's right. Oh, wow. Well, how did that shape you?
Well, I mean, some of the formation's good, right? Discipline, work ethic, the will to win, courage, sacrifice, mateship, learning how to take commands, chain of command, but a lot of it's done out of fear. It's like, if you don't do it, like they break you at boot camp, is like, you will meet the force of like, so you either have to conform and play the game of like, this is the system. But if you don't, then the system will crush you. So, and it's necessary. Like you need it. When we go to war, you need people that are like, yes, sir, no, sir. So a lot of it gave me a lot of good life skills that kind of relate. I think the hard part of it was probably the mental strain of thinking about shooting people, having to shoot people, all that, like putting on that hypervigilance because you're looking for bombs, finding bombs, seeing people get shot, mates of mine that got shot, mate that lost his leg. These things are pretty full on. And that gave me PTSD after Afghanistan on the field trip. And so that was a struggle, depression, anxiety, and alcohol came into my life. And I began to self-medicate because of my pride. I wouldn't admit I was struggling because that was, to me, mental health was weakness. And we were like in the army, we were like, pain is just weakness leaving the body.
Mm.
And I was
Yeah,
like, you
right.
didn't want to admit that you were. And then things got so bad that I became suicidal. And that was my rock bottom. To the parallel of the prodigal son story, that was my pig's pen moment. I came to my senses and I just cried out to God. And I was like, if you can help me. And I got into AA. And that's probably the first time I ever had a mentor that was a different kind of like a relational mentor, sponsor. And that really helped me going through the AA and the 12 steps that are taken from Galatians, Beatitudes, and the Sermon on the Mount. Like if truth is absolute, like you said this morning, that really helped me to have someone that could walk through me on that, but also cared about me enough to give me a rebuke. Like Proverbs says, like a rebuke from a brother is like a kiss on the cheek.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be, but that's a hard lesson to learn. That rebuke is a part of growth.
Yeah.
It's a part of life.
Yeah. Well, I think too, I mean, when you look at that, I think one of the things you said is there was the relational component, right? The relational component with mentoring, and we talked about it on another episode when we dealt with mentoring, but there is that relational part to it where it's like, I can rebuke you because I love you. And you'll hear that rebuke, right? And I'm not just trying to get you to perform. I actually care about you. So I think that's an imperative, right? When you're seeing the love of God, God doesn't, I think I read this morning, God doesn't just want to use you, or last night I was reading, God doesn't just want to use you, but he wants you to enjoy him. And so relationally, like that's so important. So that's how you came to faith. That's how you came back to faith.
Yeah.
You went to AA and then, yeah.
And it's a very non-judgmental space. So it was a lot of the shame that lives in the secrecy just goes from sharing it, other people encouraging. And it kind of gave me a place to just come to God. I knew it was my higher power was Jesus, but in a place where I didn't feel the judgment that I'd probably felt growing up. And so God really used that. And I came back to church and and then I just got wrecked with the gospel. Like it became, this wasn't just a head knowledge, it became a heart knowledge and that journey. And like, I remember weeping for the first time in 13 years because I become quite callous in my heart and the guilt and the shame, realizing that he took what I deserved and the punishment. Yeah, it changed the whole way that I saw the cross. And one of the things I preached on Sunday, that the cross is not a revelation of my sin, but a revealing of my value. And that switched for me and began to feel that hole that I was trying to fill in my value and my love and all of that. And because he did that in me, I stopped living for it through what I did. It was no longer an external thing. I was living from who I was and he secured me. But then I would struggle at times, like, because I knew I could see it in others. And I went to my sponsor, I was annoyed. I'm like, what is with this guy's pride? And he goes, hey, that was you like 2 months ago. and then he said, hey, you spot it, you got it. And so I realized that the same grace that I was receiving, I had to begin to have for others. And, and getting that from a mentor, it helped me.
So that started, you had to be brought to the end of yourself and you found somebody that cared enough about you to speak the truth to you in AA. That's amazing. But that's a great environment because they're broken as well. And they know they're broken and they're willing to love. But I think that's an important principle that the best mentors themselves have been broken and help us grow, not out of arrogance, but out of their own brokenness before the Lord.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And I think one of the things I've thought about mentors is like fathers and mentors. Because like Paul will talk about Timothy as his true son. And then he says like, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And I was reflecting on that this week because he says that's the start of 1 Corinthians 11. I went back to 10 and he's telling them that everything we do for the glory of the Lord. And then he's saying that like he's trying to please everyone because he has this kind of undergirding goal that he wants as many people to come to the knowledge of the truth, to receive Jesus, that the gospel would go out like it's a higher thing for him. And it's like he's laying down his life for others essentially. And then I'm like, well, that kind of leader that is imitating Christ is you want to imitate. Like I want to imitate someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking for the Christ and the fruit of Christ in others that I submit myself to. I think the challenge is, what do you do when you're under bad leadership? And none of us are perfect. I'm definitely got my flaws and my humanity, and going like, not everything we do is good either. So it's like you still honor the position, but not necessarily the behavior. And you look at someone like David with Saul and the challenges of that. Like he still honored the position, even though he was anointed to be king. Saul wasn't. But he didn't stay in proximity to that spears could hit him. And like, like looking at this. But I think for me, I really felt like God speak to me. I got out of Bible school and I was like, I'm ready to go. 2018. I was like making up for lost time that I wasted. And I really felt like he spoke to me through this passage in 1 Peter 5:5 about you younger ones, submit yourself to your elders, clothe yourself in humility, humble yourself therefore under the mighty hand of God, that in due time he will lift you up. And I just knew that I really needed to keep growing in humility. And you know what? At the time, I didn't realize how much I did. And today I'm still growing in that. And just humbling myself, because that is the posture to receive from a mentor.
Zach's the only one that's reached true humility in this group here, I think, right, Zach?
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And he lies about other things. Well, that is something that we need to keep growing in all our life. I think you're back to what you said a little bit earlier. I wonder if a lot of the reason why men don't mentor other men is because they see their own sin so much. I'm not going to, who am I to mentor, to pour into somebody else? How do we address that? Because I think a lot of Christian men think that way. I'm not the mentor.
Well, it goes back to that insecurity thing. Just feeling like you're not enough to accomplish what God wants you to do, so you rely on either, you wait around until he forces you to, or you're hoping someone else picks up the ball and runs with it so you don't have to. And so it's a tendency to, that insecurity leads to passivity, instead of thinking like, maybe I don't have what it takes to do what God is asking me to do, but I will start to do it anyways. And if God actually wants me to do it, he'll provide what I need to make it happen, and that's true for mentoring. Like if you're going to mentor someone, it's true for absolutely everything. I mean, how many people are dragging their feet not getting married because they're like, oh, I just need to get a better job or make more money or something like that. It's like,
that's right.
Come on, man, just get married, just do what God's calling you to do. Stop dragging your feet waiting for something else to happen or for God to force you.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good.
I think mentoring too is really, just being a step or just a couple of steps ahead of someone else.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we don't realize how much God has actually poured into our lives, because we're so overwhelmed by the man in the mirror that doesn't look like Jesus as much as we want and as much as we think. And we need, I need to be at this place. And it's like, man, the one thing that is true, and I think we know this as teachers, some of the ways that we learn scripture best is by teaching it.
That's right.
Because then you're accountable to your students, because you want to make sure, hey man, I need to be sure that what I'm teaching is correct. Well, it's the same thing for mentoring. It's like, you know what? When I am actually mentoring someone, right, that takes courage for me to step up, but then it also produces an accountability.
Yeah.
Because now someone's looking at my life. They're not just listening to what I'm saying. And so, guys, listen to this, because this will actually push you out of that passivity that Zach just talked about, to where you will take your place and become that mentor who's actually going to be forced to grow and live the things that you've been learning.
Boy, that is so true. I think back when I was a youth pastor in college before I went to seminary, and I realized, I look back, all those are my kids. When I was a youth pastor, they're only 5 years younger than me. They got gray hair now too, all of them. And I realized you're right. You only have to be a few steps ahead of somebody. And it really is an act of humility to invest your life in somebody else, not having had all the answers. So that's why we think every man should see himself as a potential mentor of other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So on the march in terms of humility, and now at this stage of your life, you just had your first child.
I did.
Right? Not you, but your wife did. Okay. So tell us about your son.
His name's Judah. So he's 4.5 months. And it has just been the greatest joy, next to my salvation, like having a son and understanding how much unconditional love God has towards me, because like the moment I saw him, I just had this love that I can't explain. He said nothing to earn it. I don't know him really. And it was like, it's been such a great joy, and obviously starts making me think about the kind of father I want to be, and and what I want to pass on and grow in. And I think like you're sharing before, like sometimes we can feel disqualified, but like Bishop said, we don't know what's in us until we have the opportunity to actually share it. And I even think about some of the young guys that I've been mentoring. I've been mentoring one guy for 10 years now.
Wow.
He's about to get married, and another 2 guys for about 5 years. I think in the beginning, I just felt like, what do I have to give? And I think the posture of humility was like, when I don't know the answer, I'm like, let's find it together in the Word. And that's something that's like, hey, let's go on the journey practically of what it is, and to do that and to grow together. And that's something I can do. Well, let's walk through life and to learn, and practically as it comes up. And I think those relationships are so significant. And it's like, I'm the same with my son. I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to do the best to lead him to the answer.
I like that. So what do we mentor other men with? It's the Word of God.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I love it. Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Christ.
Right.
So even in that, Paul is pointing beyond himself. He's saying, listen, I'm not the source. There's a source that I'm connected to.
That's right.
And ultimately what I want to do as a mentor is I want to connect you to that source. I don't want you to be dependent on me. Ultimately, I want you to depend on the source, which is Christ. And so we continue. I love that. I don't have all the answers. I don't know. I know a couple of answers. I know a few, and I know the most important one, the church answer, Jesus. He's always the answer, right?
Right.
But, at the end of the day, that's what we want to do, is we want to get people connected to the vine and lead them that way. Because what do we want from the people that we're mentoring? We want them to mentor others. That's the disciple making process. And it's not, so I think it's important that we have that Paul, or a couple of Pauls in our lives, Paul, Peter, whoever, and that they are mentoring us, and that way we're able to continue to mentor the Timothys in our lives as well. So I think that that's extremely important.
Yeah, if they're imitating Paul and Paul's imitating Christ, he's not teaching them how to imitate Paul. He's teaching them how to imitate Christ by his example of imitating Christ. And so, that's really...
Yeah, that's a powerful day. And the thing is, so mentoring pertains to fathering. What are fathers? Fathers, we're life givers and life builders. And so we're passing on life. It also, interestingly, could a husband see himself as the mentor to his wife? I mean, how do you guys think about that?
Yeah. I think he should be. I think he has to be, right? Primarily. I mean, if we are, again, loving our wives as Christ loves the church, and Christ laid his life down for the church, and he sanctifies the church by the word of God through the washing of the water of the word. And so that's what we as husbands are called to do as well, is to mentor our wives.
My dad never told me that. Nobody ever, and I don't think I ever even heard a sermon on that. I think why I was not probably well prepared for marriage, one reason is I didn't realize that I had to be a spiritual mentor just a couple of steps ahead of my wife. That takes a lot of humility, because as a young man, we're kind of a mess anyway, leading our wives. Yeah. But it is part of my role as a husband to sort of mentor and help my wife flourish spiritually. Yeah. That puts a good leadership role on myself, back on us as men. Yeah.
I think it's good to not skip over the sacrificial leadership. Like Christ laid down his life for the bride.
Yeah.
And so when a lot of men skip to the part, submit to me, without going. The reason why a wife will submit is because you're laying down your life
Amen.
in love sacrificially for her.
Yeah.
That she actually wants to submit. But
Yep.
some people demand submission, like me in the past relationships, I would, without actually laying down my life. And
Did we expect it?
Yeah.
Well, you were in the military. Follow the chain of command. I'm your
Yes, sir,
superior
no, sir.
officer. Yeah, I know. That raises some of the points about mentoring. That mentoring is really, it's not a top-down thing. As we mentor other people, we can mentor each other. Yeah. We encourage each other. We disciple each other. We prophesy the word to each other.
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. Yeah. But we got to do it in a humble way, in a way. The words of the wise, what does Proverbs say? The words of the wise make knowledge acceptable. And so there's a way we can mentor each other without being arrogant.
Right.
Like, I got this all together. Listen to me.
Yeah.
And there's wisdom in the counsel of many. So it's learning to hear God's voice in the many voices. And I really fight for mentorship. Like, I think I fight to be in proximity. Like, if you're going to imitate someone that's imitating Christ, that's relational.
Yep.
Being around them, watching their life. It's not even what they say. You can learn from not even saying. But then there's certain ones that you're relationally close to. You've actually got to be accountable to them. So unless I make someone responsible by being accountable and sharing and trusting, then they can't actually speak into my life. And the thing about my blind spots is I can't see them. So I've got to be able to share and trust, which means that God had to deal with probably my wrong attitudes towards authority. So where I'd had problems with authorities, things like skepticism, rebellion, and these.
You have an authority problem?
In the past, I did, yeah.
I still do, probably.
And to actually come in and go, hey, no, I've got to show up. I've got to fight for that, and to see that it's so important, because the blind spots that people have pointed out to me have been some of the most pivotal changes and helped me in areas that I didn't know I need.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blind spots, by definition, are things we don't see.
Right. Things that we would deny.
And probably deny because we don't see them.
Right.
Oh, that's not true of me. If it was true of me, I'd have known it by now.
And would you say that the relationships that you had with those people were what allowed you to actually hear from them on those blind spots?
Yeah, and the trust with that, and I think a lot of it was like the one guy that really spoke into my life, Chip Judd, he and my marriage and areas, and he really, I just knew that he loved me. And so he really won me, and I knew that I, like, even though it hurt, I knew that I was like, oh, he was telling me in an area that I was controlling and I was the problem, where I was blaming everyone else. The thing about the blame game is you're not taking responsibility.
Yeah.
But freedom comes from taking responsibility, but bondage from giving it away. And if he didn't point out, hey, you're controlling, you're the problem in this area, I was like, it was one of the best things that helped my marriage the most, and I needed to hear it. But because I knew he loved me and had proven that over time, then I was able to really take it on.
Okay, so raises the question. If you don't love somebody that much, can you mentor them?
Yeah. Well, when you say that, as I was thinking about this, when we think of mentoring, a lot of times, I think we think of the transactional nature of mentor-mentee. So I find a mentor who is going to get me to my next level in business or my next level in this, right?
Yeah,
But when we think about it from the biblical perspective, again, we're always going to come back to the discipleship model. It's relational. There is transaction happening because the life of God is being transferred from one person to another, the wisdom of God, and those things are happening. But I think it's so important that we don't just look to the mentoring relationship for someone who can give us, a thing, but that there's actually that relational component. So
it's less transactional.
Right. And it's relational. And say your question one more time.
Can you mentor somebody if you don't have a deep love like your buddy had for you?
I don't think you can. I don't think you've earned the right to speak the truth in love unless you can really say you love them, because otherwise you can weaponize truth. You see someone that would speak to me the same truth. Now, if I had the humility, I could probably still receive it, but saying that to me probably would have really hurt me and strengthened my rebellion or strengthened the things that were, that needed to be dealt with for me to be able to actually receive.
Yeah, because you won't, you have your defense mechanisms up. And so you're immediately going to fight against it. But when you know someone loves you, it's like, man, that person loves me. They're not trying to hurt me. They're trying to help me. So I think you can have a mentoring relationship without that love, but I don't think that you will fully benefit from that relationship the way that Christ would want it. And again, I think for us, whenever we're talking about mentoring in general, I think we're thinking about it in a disciple making, mindset, because that's who we are. Right.
Basis.
So, yeah.
I think we can pass on information well to other people that helps mentor them and establishes them as Christians.
And develop them.
But the more we love them, the more impactful it is. And that's probably why we as men need to continue to grow. All Christians, but we need to grow in love.
Yeah.
And that's why it's the greatest virtue, because it is the greatest motivator overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, the filter down effects of that is going to be huge.
And that's always impressed me about you, Zach, with your kids. And as you talk about your kids, I'll say, hey, how are the kids doing? You almost always say, they're great. I love them. And you love being a father, and it's clear.
Well, my kids are amazing. So it's
are they
real
better
awesome
than my
to say
kids?
that. Well, I didn't know them at age 5 and 7,
okay.
but I would venture to guess yes. Well, Rees, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been great talking to you.
Oh, man.
Fun.
It's been
Good
great.
hanging out with you guys.
Yeah. For those of you listening at home, thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you want to join the conversation, you can email the show at forgetruth.com. You can find out more about the Forge movement at forgetruth.com. And Jayson, will you lay down a challenge for our men today?
Yeah, guys, I think that you have probably heard a few times in these podcasts, we're talking about mentoring because we think that this really does matter. So my encouragement, number one, would be that you find a godly mentor who you can trust, develop a relationship with, and allow them to pour into your life, but also that you would step into that role of being a mentor and take that step of faith. And I think God will bless you in ways beyond your imagination.